Welcome to Inside Mental Health with Debbie. I am your host, Debbie Mulder. Girls now more than ever are being faced with challenges. And studies have shown that by age 14, girls' confidence levels have decreased by 30% in comparison to boys of that same age. On today's show, we have Tara Filteau, who's talking to us about female mental health and how we can change this statistic. So welcome to the show, Tara. So Tara, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So let's talk about who you are. And from what I know and what I've seen from your work, you're a community advocate. Is that correct?
Yeah, I guess I'm a self-proclaimed parent and community advocate. And I'm also the founder of a social enterprise as well called Mother, Daughter, Empower. But I love to give back to my community and get involved and give back any way I can.
Right. Awesome. And so from Mother, Daughter, Empower, we can talk about females, right?
Yeah.
I want to ask you, Tara, do you think that there's a negative stigma surrounding girls, females, and mental health?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've come a long way, but I think there's still a lot of stigma just in general when it comes to mental health. And I think the stigma when it comes to, women and especially young girls, I think there's a lot of pressure, right? So, that kind of pressure to be perfect or to be the perfect mom or the perfect student. And so I think that level of perfection also follows with that stigma around mental health and how that affects women and girls for sure.
Yeah. And so there definitely is a stigma, and then the question about why there's such a negative stigma, it's just the pressure of society and what's been placed on females.
I definitely think so. I know obviously times have changed, even from our generation till now, but the pressure still lies. And I think especially on young girls more than ever, access to social media, when you look at Instagram and that level of perfectionism that is just, in our face constantly on a daily basis can really have an effect on our mental health. And I think that level of perfection is, especially when it comes to social media, more geared towards girls than boys, at least right now in this day and age.
And having the perfect body, having the perfect personality, whatever that is, that's
everything. I mean, when it comes to online, most of us want to share the good stuff. Not everyone's sharing, the raw and real. So we have kind of this, perspective that everything looks fine and dandy and this level of perfectionism like we've never seen before. But what goes on behind closed doors is very different than what we see in our news feeds and so it's really important to understand that those things aren't necessarily real. But when we're constantly bombarded with it, it's very hard to kind of, take a step back sometimes.
And I wish more people understood that, right? About the reality and the fantasy and how social media puts that.
Yes, there's a very, very fine line when it comes to reality and fantasy. And I think those lines are blurred now more than ever with social media.
In your opinion, do you think that females put off getting support for their mental health?
Definitely. And I know, like, even when we look at the stats that CAMH has produced, they definitely are. I took some notes here, but I think they say that 1 out of 5 youth will experience mental health. And 60% of them say that they don't reach out for help because of that stigma. So there's still a huge, I feel like we've come a long way, but obviously there's still, a lot of work to do. And part of that is that people just don't know where to go. Like the resources that are available, again, the stats show that 4 out of 10 people that actually go out and look for help aren't actually getting the help that they needed, and they're still kind of waiting. So I think that there's a lot of room for growth in regards to, policy and funding and really having these resources available, because at the end of the day, our mental health is so important. I personally feel like it's just as important as our physical health.
Yes.
But yet the resources available aren't as easy as, picking up the phone and calling our doctor and making an appointment. So I think there's a lot of room for growth there, and there's still a lot of stigma.
Yeah. And a lot of your organization is geared to females. Absolutely. If you were to tell them about the stigma around mental health, how would you suggest we remove that stigma, especially as it pertains to females?
Yeah, I think it really starts with the adults in the home. So whether you're a mom or you could be an aunt or a grandma, it really starts with you. Because I know, like, from the many interviews that I've done, our kids don't really listen to what we say, but they're watching everything that we do. So the more that we can remove that stigma in our own homes or in, certain conversations that we have, the better that our kids will grow up, and they won't see any difference, right? I think we grew up where, crying or talking about our feelings, in a lot of homes, it was shamed upon, right? So it's really important to kind of, as a generation, move past that so that we can move forward and remove that stigma and really have these conversations, with our kids, especially with our girls. I mean, with Mother Daughter Empower, we focus on girls ages 7 to 14. So even that shift in hormones have a huge effect on mental health and what that can do as well. So I think it really comes down to, what kind of changes can you implement in your own home to start? And then, obviously the government and the policy work comes next, right? So it really starts at home in those day-to-day conversations.
And you're absolutely right, because that age, and you've picked such a pivotal age, that age right there is where things just start to happen. Things come to light. And if you don't have that support to help guide you through that, things could either go left or right, right?
It's hard. And you know what? The thing is as humans, we're always prone to be reactive. Like, once there's a problem, we want to fix it. So what we're trying to do really is to be proactive. When we take the girls ages 7 to 10, if we can, implement some really great routines, and when it comes to mental health and self-love and all of these things at a young age, then once they reach their teen years, hopefully they'll have more tools in their toolbox that they can use, right? So that's the whole idea of what we're trying to do, and it really takes a lot of time and effort, and it's through generation, putting down those barriers that we're going to see change.
And I had this conversation with somebody before where I would think back to my childhood and think, you know what? I think I had anxiety as a child, but was it ever identified? Did we even know what anxiety was back then?
Probably not.
No, right.
It's really not talked about. And that's why I say, like, we've come such a long way where we have these different labels and we're able to identify what these things are. I mean, most of us probably had some sort of childhood trauma or issues or anxiety, but it was just not labeled or not talked about in previous generations. So I think we've definitely kind of pinpointed and put some labels, and now it's really trying to get rid of those stigmas around the labels that we're working on.
Absolutely. Now, Tara, you have a boy and I believe 2 girls.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So what is the difference between the way females view and address their mental health versus the way males view and address their mental health? Has that ever been something that you've considered and thought about?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think that, in some cases, there's a lot of similarities, especially when it comes around the stigma. I think even when it comes to male, there's even more stigmas to mental health because males are supposed to be, those macho figures. And so they're not supposed to cry and they're not supposed to talk about their feelings. So I think there's even more work to do around the stigma. But when it comes to the actual mental health issues, I think it really comes down to the individual. I mean, there's so many, different causes to mental health, personal experiences. And I think, like I mentioned, hormones. I know for hormones, girls versus boys, it's such a difference in hormones, and that has a huge effect going through those teenage years as well, and how they deal with different situations. So I think it's really comes down to personal experience, and that can be so different for everyone. But again, I think with young girls, when it comes to what they're exposed to and the pressures, that's that's definitely bigger for them. And that's why we decided, even as an organization, to really focus on those young girls, because there's a stat that says that girls and boys at the age of 7, their confidence levels are the same. By age 14, a girl's confidence level will have decreased by 30%. Right. So we see how there's such a huge shift there with that generation and those years for girls. And I think that definitely has a ripple effect on their mental health, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you touched a little bit about the resources that are available for mental health, specifically for females. And maybe they are out there, but females aren't accessing them. Do you think that they're there? Do you think that enough resources, we just don't know how to find them?
I think there's resources out there, but I definitely think that they're not, that there needs to be more people that advocate for them. I don't think that they're as in your face as like the medical resources that are out there. So I think that parents really need, parents, teachers, whoever's around, your child needs to advocate for those resources and not give up. Because I think even, when you walk into the doctor's office, they could perhaps give you some resources, but then once you start reaching out to those other resources that they've given you, or the referrals, they might not actually have the programs and services. So I definitely think that there's a disconnect, that type of referral system needs to be improved. And the fact that, like Cam H has said, 4 out of the 10 people that reach out for help are just not getting the help that they need. So that's a problem. Yeah. And there definitely needs to be more support in that area.
Right. Yeah. And then finding that support will help to eliminate the stigma that's surrounding mental health in general, but especially for females, saying that it's okay to reach out. It's okay to look for those supports and get that treatment that you need.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, the more that we realize that, our mental health is very similar to our physical health. There are days that you don't feel good, you have a headache or whatnot. And there's days that you just don't feel good mentally. You don't have the energy, and that's all part of our mental health. So I think that the more that we're proactive and that we're able to give resources when it comes to especially self-care and how important that is. And actually we just had a whole theme, last month about self-care and how that has an effect on your mental health. And even the definition of self-care, a lot of people think, okay, self-care, I have to go spend a day at the spa, but that's not what it is at all. It's really just being able to implement these little things on a daily basis that help, bring our mindfulness and our calmness towards whatever we're doing. So I think the more that we're proactive, and there definitely needs to be more resources and education on being proactive, the more that'll take away from the stigma when it comes to our mental health.
Yeah. Oh, you said it perfectly, Tara. That's exactly what I feel is needed. And the fact that self-care is so huge and people neglect that. And you're right. People think that it could be doing your nails. Well, what if you can't afford to do your nails? What are some self-care techniques that you can use to really, really help and support your mental health? Yeah. So that's so, so important. We're going to take a break here. This is a good place to take a break and come back. And when we do come back, I want to talk about Mother-Daughter Empower. I want to talk about this amazing initiative that you have put in this community and how people can get access to what you are bringing forth. So we will be right back.
Awesome.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
At St. John Ambulance, we're all about community. We teach life-saving skills and provide community support through our volunteer services. All St. John Ambulance product sales and training registrations support these important services. Volunteer, donate, or enroll in a program today so we can continue to have an impact on our community. Visit sja.ca to learn more. At St. John Ambulance, we do more than save lives, we change lives.
What kind of show do you want to see on Rogers TV? What interests you? Log on to rogerstv.com, fill out a show proposal, and tell us about your segment idea. We want to know what you want to see. Rogers TV, only on Rogers.
All right, welcome back to Inside Mental Health. We have Tara Filteau with us today, and she is a founder and CEO of Mother-Daughter Empower. She's talking about female mental health with us today. So Tara, thanks again for being with us. Can you tell us a little bit about Mother-Daughter Empower? This is a great initiative, a great organization, so needed. Can you let us know a little bit about it?
Yes, absolutely. So Mother-Daughter Empower is a social enterprise, and our mission is to empower the next generation of young girls to have the confidence to be who they are so they can grow up and become anything they want to be. And we really do that by inspiring moms to empower their daughters, because that's kind of where it starts. And we offer, different workshops, programs, and services for moms and daughters. We have a free online community and monthly mother-daughter toolkit that we offer. And then we do the National Mother-Daughter Conference, which is turning into an international one because we're doing it online this year. Thanks, COVID. And we do mother-daughter retreats as well. So our goal here is to really bring mothers and daughters together to connect, communicate, and create memories that will, last a lifetime, and learn and grow together. And we focus on girls that are ages 7 to 14, because as I talked about earlier, that's really the stage where, confidence seems to take a shift, and we really want to get in there and be proactive before the teenage years.
It's amazing. That is so great. And I know that you have daughters, so how did you come up with this initiative?
Yeah, it's a funny story. So back in 2018, I actually ran for council in my local municipality in Innisfil. And so I obviously didn't win, but I learned so much through that experience. And I really kind of threw myself out there. I was advocating, as I still am today, for better traffic safety in and around our kids' school. And I said, you know what, if I've been doing this for a while, let's just throw my hat in there and advocate for change. And so through this process, my daughter was 7 at the time. She's 10 now. She took such an interest in wanting to come out to all these events, door knocking. She was riding her bike while I was giving out flyers. And we bonded so much through that experience. And I learned so much more than I could have ever expected. So through that experience, obviously she was learning as well. And she would ask things like, what is the difference between, a mayor and deputy mayor? And I mean, at her age, I didn't even know who the premier was. So it was just mind blowing how much she was learning through this experience that I thought I was, embarking on. So once that council dust settled, I had enjoyed how much, we had learned together. And I was looking for more opportunities out there for moms and daughters, whether that was, in community involvement or programs and services. And as I was searching, I came across that stat that I mentioned earlier, that girls by age 7, their confidence levels are the same as boys, but by age 14, their confidence levels will decrease 30%. And I thought, wow, there has to be somebody out there that's doing something about this. And although I came across a few organizations, I couldn't really find what I was looking for. Right. So I spent a few months, thinking, this is something that we want to do. And I talked about Sophia, and she was like, yes, we need to do this. So lo and behold, Mother-Daughter Empower, I think we came up with the name and the idea in February, and June 2019, a few months later, we had launched.
Wow.
So it's been about a year and a half, and that's how it all began.
Yeah. That is amazing, because I even think about your daughter watching you and what you do, and how much you advocate and how much you speak up, and just looking at you and saying, I want to be that way. So when you put mother, daughter, because you could have just said female in general.
Yep.
The mother and daughter relationship is so huge. So I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
That initiative.
Thank you so much.
I actually joined Mother-Daughter Empower, but my daughter, she's 6 months old, so she's not really ready to join me out there. It was just so inspiring. And I thought, no, I want to be a part of this. I need to be a part of this. And
Yeah.
what people need to say, mothers, say if you've got daughters, I need to be a part of this.
Yes. And a lot of it is really, we live in such busy times. We're running to, I know COVID has us kind of at a standstill, but normally we're running through soccer practice, picking up the kids, making dinner. And we really don't realize how much, we're lacking that connection. So a lot of this is just really giving the time and space and place, to connect, and then making it very simple by giving the activities to do so that we're not having to look, okay, what do I do now? What are the resources available?
So can you tell us some of the services that you offer? And I mentioned retreats.
Yes.
And what are those services that you offer with Mother-Daughter Empower?
So the first one that we have is it's a free membership for moms and daughters, and it's a monthly mother-daughter empowerment toolkit. So every month we have a different theme, and the toolkit is emailed to you, and you get a positive affirmation that you can focus on for the month. You have a mother-daughter challenge that you can do together. There's a journal entry in there as well. And so really, it's really to create this consistency of connection. So we usually say, once you get your kit, schedule it in your calendar, schedule at least an hour to go through it. And it really gives you an opportunity to bond, connect. The questions are already there to kind of, learn about your child, and your child can learn about you. And it's a different theme every month. So that's the first resources that I always talk about that we have available that's out there. And then we also have the annual Mother-Daughter Conference. And so, I personally love to go to women empowerment events, the way that you feel when you leave here. And I wanted to create something like that for our little girls. So this is totally designed, for girls ages 7 to 14. The speakers, they have like 5 to 10 minutes, because if not, you've lost the kids. So it's really designed for girls, but I really feel like moms and daughters equally will leave feeling so inspired. So this year we're working on that event online. So it'll be an online event in May. And so you can find out all the details on our website. And then the other thing that we do is our mother-daughter retreats, which is, a weekend retreat, which is just a really, really awesome opportunity where we bring in yoga, meditation, different workshops, and it's an overnight thing where you really get to connect with your daughters and bond for like a whole weekend. So we kind of have the different levels of experience that we can offer, and we're working on a few online workshops as well. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's pretty much what we do.
Yeah, that is so sweet. I love that. I got 7 years to wait before I dig into that. Yes.
Soak it in.
Definitely. Now you have this mission statement, and I was reading it, and I also was thinking, okay, what are your hopes and your dreams for Mother-Daughter Empower? And that your mission really speaks to that. Do you mind just sharing, like, what are your hopes for Mother-Daughter Empower?
Absolutely. So we want to create a world where girls are, have the confidence to be who they are, and they can become anything they want to be. And we're really on a mission to empower our young girls to do that. And I think like we mentioned before, it starts at home. It starts with your mom. And sometimes we think it doesn't necessarily have to be a birth mom. You might be an aunt or a grandma or a sister that can take on that role in a girl's life. And it has such a huge impact. So, if you see a child that's in need of that type of mentor, you can step in and do that. It does not necessarily need to be the birth mom, although I think we have such a huge impact. But you can definitely take on that role as a mother figure in a child's life.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because there are people that would sit and say, well, I don't have a daughter, so I can't participate in this. I have 3 boys, and my daughter didn't come along to the end. And I'm like, well, how could I be part of this? Right. But even if you have a niece, granddaughter, just somebody that really needs that.
Absolutely. And even like you think, even as a grandma, what an awesome time to take your granddaughter on for a weekend, or to attend an event, or an opportunity for an aunt to be more involved. with her niece. So it really can, it's called mother-daughter empower because it's that motherly role, and we're really focused on moms, but that motherly role can be taken on by, almost anyone that wants to.
Absolutely. So fantastic. How do we as a community help support this organization?
Wow, that's a great question. I think putting in the effort, like if you're a mom and you want to support the movement, become a member. It's free. Join our email list and, come out to the events if you're able to, and just kind of put in that effort, right? And, I think that's the best way. And then share any information, or we share a lot of stats. We have a weekly mother-daughter empowerment show. So I think just by sharing the information, it has a ripple effect. There might be somebody out there that needed to see that or hear that day. So just by sharing the information, I think as a community is a great way to help.
Fantastic. So fantastic. Now, you just mentioned that you have a weekly show. Where can we find the show?
Yeah, so the best way to find it is on social media, Instagram, Facebook, at Mother-Daughter Empower. We post it on our IGTV, and then we reshare it on our Facebook page. And then we take the audio and we pull it into a podcast. So if you're driving and you just want to listen to the episodes, you can do that as well. Wow.
So there's so much opportunity to be a part of this, to really make a difference. The last thing I'm going to ask you is, I don't know if you mentioned this yet, but you want to reach 1 million, 1 million females, whatever that is. And I really want to help you do that. And I think it's so important, and the message that you're spreading. So I really want to thank you for what you're doing. Do you have anything that you want to say before we go? Is there any other thing that I missed? I want to make sure that we get.
No, I think this was great. I think that if anyone wants to reach us, they can reach out on social media. And our website is www.motherdaughterempower.ca. And you can sign up for our free membership there. And I think that's a great way to get involved and get started.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being with us, Tara. I really appreciate it. We've learned so much. And I want to encourage you, and I want to say go for it, because you are on a mission, and it's wonderful. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a real pleasure to be here with you today.
And thank you all for tuning in. And please remember that you are not alone. Let's help to erase the stigma of mental health together. Take care.